I'm Michael Rosenberg, a member of the faculty at Hadar. Welcome to our Project Zug course, Whole and Broken Tablets, Aging in Rabbinic Literature. The title of this course comes from a passage that we'll study in session number 3. But it's worth starting to think now about the ways in which, as we age, we can become both more whole and more broken. I first started thinking seriously about aging in 2013. Two very different events that year put the topic at the top of my mind. The first of all things was the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, which took place in February of that year. He was the first pope to resign in almost 600 years. The last pope to do so was forced to in order to end a 40-year church schism. Benedict said he was resigning due to old age and declining health. But given the historic nature of his resignation, there was a lot of speculation about what else might be motivating his decision. I, however, was perfectly content with his own explanation. It made sense to me, because that was also the year my own father's health took a serious turn for the worse. He passed away a few months later. That was the second event that put aging front and center for me. Watching my father go from clearly elderly, but mostly the same person he'd always been, to a state of near-constant health struggles and multiple hospital stays, each one seeming to mark the end. We live in a world where extended longevity is more widespread than ever before. To be sure, there have always been people who, through whatever extraordinary combination of genes and personal practices and simple good luck, lived very long lives. Rabbi Yitzchak Alfasi, known as the Rif, is traditionally said to have lived for 90 years, nearly the entire 11th century. But people like the Rif were the exception. As we learn in a psalm that you'll study in session number 1, a normal lifespan was 70 years, and if one was with strength, then 80. So we're experiencing much more of old age than previous generations did. And our experience of old age is also qualitatively different. Given the radical advances in medical care and what it can do to extend our lives, and also what it can't always do to extend the quality of our life, it seems more than likely that the Rif's experience of his 80s was wildly different from that of Pope Benedict or from that of my father's. So one of the things studying ancient texts about aging can do is help us notice and understand how our experience of aging is, in very important ways, different from that of our ancestors. Looking to the classical texts of our tradition and how they depict aging also reveals important continuities. It can highlight aspects of aging that we might give too little attention to, lending more nuanced and subtle perspectives to how we think about the indignities of aging, as well as more appreciation for its blessings. I hope that as you learn these sources, you'll take note of all of this: the continuities and the differences, the gifts and the challenges. And I hope you'll take time to think about what resonates for you and with your experiences, as well as what challenges you to think about old age in different ways from how you have in the past. Most of our learning, sessions 2 through 4, will focus on texts from the classical rabbinic period, a stretch of time that runs roughly from the 2nd century CE through the 7th or 8th. The rabbis and the literature that they produced, the Mishnah, 2 Talmuds, and works of Midrash, define so much of what we now think of as Jewish. These works are repositories of creative and innovative thinking, and it's these texts that most excite me in my own learning. But the rabbis did not appear out of whole cloth. They were inheritors of the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, a sacred text that they studied from youth. So we'll begin like the rabbis did, with the Tanakh. In session number 1, we'll look at texts from a range of biblical books. We'll begin with 4 passages from Genesis, describing the aging of our matriarchs and patriarchs. We'll then turn to some texts from the book of Psalms, a collection of biblical poetry, and conclude with an extended passage from Ecclesiastes, or as it's called in Hebrew, Koheles. Koheles is, I think most would agree, a book with an unusually pessimistic view of the world. And these verses describing old age are congruent with that general attitude. These verses will also serve as the basis of Rabbinic Midrash in session 2. So I want especially to encourage you to dig deep into these verses, which at first glance might appear to be merely a lot of different ways of saying that it's hard to get old. What do the different metaphors imply? Must we read everything here as negative? And as always, what here resonates for you? And what's hard to accept at face value? These are the sorts of questions I'm asking. But what's most exciting as you begin this journey is discovering the questions that you'll want to ask. The interface between you, your study partner, and the text will be a generative space with insights and curiosities that no one can predict. So while you can use the questions on the source sheets as prompts, don't feel limited by them. Dig deep and enjoy the learning.